I would, the next job assigned to me is to introduce the speakers and the moderators. Let me take the honor to introduce and hand over the dais to them. So first, let me introduce Ms. Rajeshri Shenoy, the first speaker of the day. She is head of HR TCS Cochin. She has a corporate experience of more than 18 plus years in human resource management. She's currently heading HR function for Tata Consultancy Services in Cochin. She's a literature graduate from St. Teresa's College, Cochin, and she has got a master's in human resource management from Rajagiri Institute. She is an avid reader, enjoys the world of books and stories, and truly believes that leaders need to support the next generation and mentor them. She's a regular speaker in state level and national level forums. Welcome to you, Rajeshri.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Govind Singh Negi, who is a Senior Director, Talent Management at 3 Pillar Global, and he's also the founder of HR Success Talk. An HR and business leader, a blogger, a social activist with dual master's degree and HR from Symbiosis University. He has got more than 20 years of experience in the field of talent management. He has been awarded the top HR Tech Minds in 2018. He's currently designated as Senior Director, Talent Management and Delivery Center Lead for a global IT company called 3 Pillar Global, which has operations in multiple countries and continents. So he's also the founder of HR Success Talk, which is 1.25 lakh members strong and a regular blogger. So welcome to you, Govind.
Thank you, Ranjit.
Our third speaker for the day is Ranjit TP. He is the Director Recruitment for Asia Pacific at Volvo Group. Ranjit is a talent acquisition leader with 20 plus years of experience and currently working with Volvo Group and earlier associated with companies like Wipro, Capgemini, and Epsilon. Ranjit is holding a master's degree in HR and PG program from XLRI. He's also an avid reader, likes traveling and photography. So he is most interested in mentoring young professionals, and he is also a wildlife conservationist through an NGO. Welcome to you, Ranjit.
Thank you.
And the staff of the day, today's moderator, Mr. Arvind Warrior, an HR professional with an experience of more than 16 years. Arvind has worked in multiple sectors of information technology, manufacturing, pharmaceuticals in leading MNCs and startup organizations. So he's currently heading the HR department for a company called Rapid Value. He's the human resource director there and has mission critical projects and assignments to his credit. He has always been pivotal in providing strategic perspectives to the organizations, and he is a cultural expert. A very avid reader. I would say if I have seen, I would rate him as one of the top 10 readers I have seen in my personal life. So a motivational speaker and an advisory member for some of the leading B schools of the country. So welcome to you, Arvind.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So with the panel members of Rajeshri, Govind Singh and Ranjit and the moderator of Arvind, I hand over the dais to Arvind and wishing you happy learning. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ranjit, for those kind words. I think now my show is very much, you have put me into trouble actually. So the best part to start with is basically we have something called 60, 60 thoughts. Okay, 20 years from Govind, 20 years from Rajeshri, and 20 years from Ranjit. So this 1 hour is going to have that 60 hours, 60 years of great experience they are going to share. So thank you very much, Ranjit. I am super excited. And thanks for HR Success Talk for giving me this great platform to really stimulate this great thing. Okay, so I am actually in between 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. And the best thing is there is a worse or a good thing called culture, which is eating breakfast or lunch. I don't know what it is going to eat today. And this main thing, the so-called culture, is exciting thing which we are going to discuss today. And that is why this session is going to be really, really insightful. And our leaders are going to really stimulate and really going to generate great wisdoms through this whole panel discussion. So once again, thanks to everyone who are part of this great sessions. And thank you very much, leaders, for taking up time on Saturday and attending this. So let me just start sharing my screen and kickstart. So I'm sure you all can see my screen, correct? Can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Sure. So yes, the topic is exactly, I think Ranjit has been saying, it's about how culture is going to be the major thing, because I think that's the only thing I would say which attracts great talent, not good talent also. Now, what exactly it is, Peter F. Drucker has rightly said, the guru of the management, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Now, even if it's eating lunch and everything. So that's why we thought, what better topic to have in a forum like this, and where we have great minds like Govind, Rajashree, and Ranjit, who are going to give us insightful and great points of wisdom. Yes, I don't have to speak much about this. You just put culture, you will have just not 2 billion, maybe more. It will be just more. And this is the reason culture is the most important thing in leaders' agenda even today. And especially in this COVID time, it is increasing more. So now look at the word called culture. You just have to put culture. What all it pops up, the so-called, if you put in word analytics per se, it is about respect, it is about open, it is about family, it is about positive organization scholarship, organization citizenship, all those kind of, OB topics to whatnot. Awesome, environment, everything it pops up. And if you look at CEO's agenda, as I rightly said, one of the most, and this is from BCG, what they're saying is today, if you look at CEO's agenda and which gets propagated to HR is only 3 things. Do I have an excitement or an exciting kind of purpose around so that it attracts the so-called Generation Z and the millennials, because they want that. Second is the strategy around building a talent in place. So HR, please work on that. Second, do I have a culture, a positive culture or what not? I mean, I'm sure Ranjit, Rajashree, and Govind are going to say more about this, but do I have a culture which is a magnet or a pure magnet to attract and excite the talent inside and outside? And that is going to be the most critical thing for any of the HR leaders going forward. Of course, yes. What are the characteristics of an organization culture? You can also do a lot of Googling around this. It is about how you hire people, how do you fire people, how do you set the goals, how do you have the projects funded, what all kind of behaviors which has to be projected, this is the so-called norms, management styles, everything comes there. Now, if that's the case, first thing is about so-called purpose strategy. Second is about the so-called behavior, which I have highlighted in green. If these two are there, so what is a hybrid so-called culture looks like? This is what it is. A hybrid culture or the so-called culture would have the mix of a purpose, the exciting thing, which is the true North Star to attract the talent. Second is the values, the ethics, the norms, which it is for the yin and yang of the business. And third, the actions, the behaviors which get reflected or which is set by the leaders so that it gets distilled down to the lowest level. And that becomes the true, true DNA of an organization. Next, its culture is more than just a unique identity. Of course, yes. And that the best performing companies, of course, yes, that's why we have the greatest of the companies, Talent Star Awards, who are going to be part of the discussion. They're going to tell us what it is. They display performance attributes. I'll underline that, performance attributes that align with companies or so-called business strategy and reinforce or enforce the right employee behavior. So it starts with the leadership, ends with the right behavior. And that is the true test of a culture also. Last, these are the next 2 slides is something which my leaders in this dais, the panel, the great leaders are going to tell more. But then I'm just going to touch upon what exactly is the aspects which forms or the glue of a culture. It has the right purpose, which we discussed. Opportunity, it sets the platform of opportunity for people to come with great ideas. Creativity stimulates there. Once you have that purpose, once the culture is open. Success, it breeds success. It is not that you should not speak, my manager would put me down if I say something. No. Appreciation, recognition, very, very important. well-being, care, kindness, humility, empathy, everything is there. And finally, it's driven by the leadership. It's an act. It's a true act of leadership. Next, defining elements. It's the last slide, and this and the previous slide is something which I'm going to open for discussion with my grain leaders in the dais. Winning culture is what we are looking for. It consists of honesty, transparency, what I say, I do, the integrity part. Performance focused. Of course, yes, that is very, very important. People centricity with performance. Accountability, responsibility, ownership. Very, very important. I don't know how many of you have gone through a book called Humnocracy, which says hire a great organization in China, which is bringing something called micro entrepreneurship. All are owners of small business. They manage their own P&L. And that's why hire is becoming a great giant. Next, collaborative mindset. The so-called networking. There is not individual contribution, but it's a co-collaborative mindset, which goes for an excellence, which goes for extra productivity in an organization. Agile is the new norm of the HR, and we got to be adaptive and flexibility. And that's what the key learning which we had from the COVID times. Innovation, innovation, innovation. I don't have to say much. A great open culture always stimulates great ideas. And it's always finally at the end, the last point, it drives winning. It is not I win, it's an organization along with the teams and along with the individuals, we win together. So with this, I stop it here. I have just put some injection to all of you, and now I'm setting this forum to my great leaders in this dais, Govind, Ranjit, and Rajashree, to say more. And what I'm going to do next is basically all three of them, Govind, Ranjit, starting with Govind, followed by Rajashree, and then Ranjit. They're going to speak about their thoughts about culture for 2 to 3 minutes, followed by questions. And then we are going to talk more about the questions which has come from the audience. And then finally, it is open for you all to ask and probe more questions with our leaders. That's the agenda for the day. So with this, I open it up for Govind to start with his thoughts around the so-called word culture and what it means to all of us, and then followed by Rajashree and Ranjit. Thank you.
Yeah, Arvind, thank you very much. And first of all, I don't think I can match the energy you have put into this this webinar, but I'll try my level best to try to match up with it. But the awesome presentation. I think in some slides, you have captured things which people don't learn in 20, 25 years of their experience. Culture is a very close to my heart. Being the country head for 3Pillar India, I have seen and observed that in my 5-year tenure with this company, the one thing which has actually moved the organization to an exponential growth is the culture. But what I'm not saying is that the other things like the purpose and strategy are not useful and they are not important. They are. But I think our leadership or the top level management of an organization focus a lot on the strategy part of it. Sometimes they focus less on culture. And also I have seen people missing on the purpose of the organization too. So culture, I'm a great advocate of it. And I think if you have to take your organization to the next level and have a differentiator as compared to other organizations, this is the one thing business leaders should start focusing on. And in our upcoming conversation, I will try to touch upon why it is so. So that's what from my side on culture.
Thank you, Govind. I would now move to Rajashree. Rajashree, if you can just continue from Govind, or you can just share your perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think first of all, Arvind, like everybody said, it's very, very hard to match your energy on a Saturday morning, right? So great start. And Govind, you have also set the tone quite well. So I was just having coffee today morning and I thought about my own experience. So first of all, to me, culture is all about an organization knowing where it came from, right? And where it's going, what it's doing, and how it matters, and how each individual that is part of that organization has a part to play there. right? And I was baptized in that as a campus fresher, and I've undergone my Holy Communion here, so I've been actually married more to TCS than I've completed a relationship with my husband. So my husband always says that TCS is my first spouse, right? But for me, that history, that lineage, being part of the Tata Group is a large part of why I have continued to be where I am, right? So culture, if you look at it, the history of an organization, if you look at TCS, right, we did not even mean anything, right? So it means that we are people who have set the path, right? We have a strong lineage, and we have been a group which has contributed to nation building, right? So it's very important for people to know your history. I'm just reflecting on my organization, but it's the same for everybody. It's extremely important to know what your history is. That gives you an identity. But do you rest on your laurels? You cannot, right? So you need to have very strong vision, and values, which was set to take the organization ahead in the future, right? So that's something that's very important. The third is celebrating people, celebrating results, celebrating failure. All of these are important elements of organizations, right? For a very long time, people were only focusing on celebrating positive results, right? But today, organizations are celebrating people being vulnerable, organization failures, because that is only something that will lead you to success, right? So how are you as an organization creating an environment where people can flourish becomes an important part of your culture. Last, the personal commitment, right? None of us here can talk about culture if we are not in organizations or if we don't personally believe in it, right? So how am I, as a storyteller, right, convinced that I stand for the culture of an organization and I truly believe that culture? If you go for an election, every political party comes out with a manifesto. And that's what's going to attract, right? Where is the company? Is the company set to grab the future and with the organization, the comfort that we are raring to go, right? I think these are all important aspects of culture. And to me, a culture may seem as something that is very intangible, but how you live it in each and every aspect of your action, I think that determines how strongly the culture threads in through all aspects of the organization. So I'll pause for now.
Fantastic. So I have put whatever you have said in three. This one, it's called RCP. First is race and ethics. Where do you come from? Actually, fantastic. We should not be forgetting our roots. So that becomes the embedded thing. Next is in terms of celebration, which is actually I remember one of the articles which I've read from Harvard in terms of what is after action reviews. Even failures have to be celebrated. And next, last but not the least, the most important thing is purpose, which needs to be showcased in form of behavior, the right behavior. Thank you very much, Rajni. Now all to you, Ranjit. We would like to listen to your great insights. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arvind, and the speakers spoke before me. So Arvind and all the audience, I know that all of us are from HR, and then we are all experts in culture. It is not that we have to try to define it again, but I would like to give a different perspective to that, because when we talk about organization culture, many of the organizations do not cross 30 to 40 years of life. That is what normally happens. So there are some organizations which has crossed 100 years. One of them, proudly I can say, it is my organization, but there are other organizations like IBM and others which has helped them to survive. That is something which makes the culture stand apart from all other things what as HR people we do. Now, taking you away from the organization culture, a little bit bigger perspective, what has lasted longer is the national cultures, different cultures like Indian culture or Chinese culture, all those things. I'm trying to give you a different perspective now, where when we talk about, it is a reflection of the bigger culture what we talk about, which we try to adopt in the organizations and trying to see what are those nuances which we need to focus on. Now, coming to a national culture, we know that there are many celebrations which are the exhibitions of the culture of the countries. For example, now since this program is organized by Kerala chapter, you would be knowing Onam is one of the culture exhibition of Kerala, right? And similarly, Diwali or Dasara or any of these festivals you can see which has lasted. Onam is one of the oldest festivals in this country, and what makes these festivals and this culture survive for probably 2000 years and 3000 years is what probably we can learn from as such professionals. And it makes it simple as also as culture what we need to look at a small part of the or a reflection or a mirror image of our culture. So what makes these cultures survive is probably a learning for us. These for example, you take the festival of Onam, which has a great leader, a visionary leader who is Emperor Maveli, who comes every year and visit you, right? So there is a vision, there is a mission for him, and there are some values which probably the entire concept of Onam comes from the integrity, equality, and well-being of people, which anyway is the I think many of us as HR professionals would be looking at these keywords as the values of our organization. I don't know whether integrity or equality and well-being of the people, if it is not there, it would not be an organization which will survive for a longer time. And it is understood by all of us in a very similar fashion. You can see Onam season, all the Mallu girls wearing same kind of white sari and men wearing the same kind of dhoti. So there is a way of doing that. There is a way of understanding how this culture is. So these are some of the artifacts or an exhibition of what your culture is. So to summarize this, there are celebrations, there are rituals, there are a way of doing things, and there are myths, incidents, stories, and songs attached to this. So to summarize all these things together, what is an organization culture? This is a summary of all these things. This values, a set of values, behaviors, practices, rituals, and celebrations. This is, in my view, what a culture of the organization should be if it has to survive for longer time, and it should be understood by the employees in the same fashion and the same way across the organization. As leaders and HR professional, this is our job to make sure that everyone understands in the organization the same way, and we have certain celebrations, certain values, certain mission, and the way of understanding and the celebrations. So this is, in my view, the core of culture of the organization.
Simply superb. Thank you very much, Ranjit. I think the key words which we can take up from Ranjit is basically in terms of he reminded us about the Onam, especially me during this COVID time. So thanks. I'm feeling sorry about that, but still we enjoyed our Onam. But Ranjit's key point is it's sustainability, because there have been a lot of cultures, because 100 years of progress. I still remember my wife was working in IBM Bangalore. So I see that board, 100 years of progress. And second thing I would like everyone to go through is basically Good to Great. Maybe Good to Great is one of the best books which says what makes organizations survive. So it's from, I forgot the author, but then Good to Great has been one of the leading books which specifically says it's the culture plus the leadership which makes organization not only just live but sustain for more than 100 years. So like GE or an Volvo or an IBM, that's a real key. The culture has to be really ensured, it is re-engineered quite often, and it should be instilled in everyone. Fine, super. So in fact, that has been really great. Now let me just, since Ranjit has given us some great definition, I'm going to start with you with some questions, okay, which I think only you will be able to start, and then probably after that, I'll be disturbing probably Govind and Rasri also. Ranjit, how do you define? Actually, I want your definition of something called culture, and what specific actions do you take? What do you think should be there to promote and sustain the so-called culture in this digital world? Because there has been a lot of emphasis on digitization and all those things. So how do you think What's your point of view on that?
Sure, Arvind. In my view, I think culture is a sum total of all those set of values, behaviors, practices, rituals, and celebrations in an organization. That
Great.
is my way of understanding that.
Okay.
And in an organization setup, it remains same. This is what, whether you take the nation, you take the different cultures or the organization, it almost remains same. And I think my earlier point was that we need to learn from the cultures which has survived for a long time. So taking from those clues, what an organization need is to have values which are communicated to all the employees, understood by all in the similar way. I wouldn't say same way, because people may have to change in different situations and adapt to that. So that is also one way of survival, adaptability. Culture cannot be very rigid and it cannot be monolithic. It should be understood, but at the same time, it should be adaptable. And otherwise, we will collapse very soon, and many of the organizations collapse because of that. And are we following the same values? And are the behaviors in a uniform manner in different situations and within all the employees at one point of time?
Super.
So these are some of the things which I would say a great organization culture would be. And Volvo, coming to the second part of your question, Arvind, Volvo has a strong culture founded on its values, which is customer success, trust, passion, change, and performance. This is what we are driving across the organization. And recently, we have started a program called Culture F5, which is like rebooting the culture in the organization or rejuvenating the culture. So this seminar or this program has come at the right time, where I was also part of some of those initiatives. And some of these activities are in the pipeline, some of them we have completed. So what we have done is, we said that culture cannot be from the somewhere in the middle or whenever you feel like. It has to start from the first day. So we said it should be value-based hiring. We have changed our way of hiring to incorporate values and see the alignment of values, because person and organization fit is one of the biggest parameter in any organization survival and employees survival and engagement and contribution to the organization. So it has to start from the beginning, from the day you interact with the person. And then this is reinforced when the person joins. We have something called value wall, where employee or the new employee write about what they have felt about the values in action during the hiring process. And they also, it becomes a commitment from the employee that they will adopt or they will adhere to these values. And then the second stage is about, and we also started training different interviewers across the organization to do value-based hiring. And then that is another important part of value-based hiring, which we have done. And then second part is about developing employees. How do we develop once the person come on board? We started connecting values. We conducted training programs. We are connecting the values to the training programs and culture catalog, and leaders giving example of values in action, experiences, stories, and best practices, all that. So leaders and all the employees become the ambassadors of our value. So that is starting from the leaders. And then third part is about the engagement of employees. How do they live the values in the organization? Visibility of the culture in the organization, and then reinforcing that by weekly value per quarter, one week for dedicated for values in every quarter, and videos, quizzes, and tips. This is what I said earlier in my culture. When you asked me what is the culture, there should be some stories, there should be some songs, there should be some experiences shared across the organization, because without that, people will not understand that. You can talk about passion, you can talk about success, customer success, or anything you want to tell, but people will not understand this, however simple the terms are. So we need to reinforce that with the stories, songs, videos, whatever you can do. in different forms. So that is what we do in the engagement of employees. And then managers become the cultural ambassadors, the capability building of managers. And another important part is about recognition based on values and culture. So it is not only the performance or somehow getting the work done, it is even about the recognition of the employees for the adoption of values and adhering to that. And then another aspect of that is tool for recognition. It's not that I can keep talking about recognizing something, but I might forget. So you need to create an environment where employees can become the ambassadors, encourage and reward or recognize colleagues by especially focusing on the values. These are some of the things we have done, and this is work in progress, which we are continuing to do. And I don't think that there is a perfect situation anytime. It is all work in progress.
Superb. Thank you very much, Ranjit. The key words which I could take up is shared mindset, which is a defined definition for culture. Second is the value. And the best thing which I could take away or steal from this is value in action. It is not something which is put it across in all those big glass chambers and all that, which you see, and then they will do something else. It should be exhibited by the leaders. And culture fit, which is right now a lot of debates I can see in HBR forums also, like, should we hire for a culture fit? Should we not? But as Ranjit said, I think the culture fit really matters. And finally, last but not the least, storytelling, experience sharing is the key for a culture. Super. Now I am moving to Rajashree actually. Rajashree, do you think organizations should drive talent basically in terms of hiring or promotion with tomorrow's culture in mind? What is your thoughts around that?
Absolutely, because culture is something that has to outlive anybody who is there in the organization, including the founders, right? So culture is a way of life that has to continue irrespective of whoever is there. Hire, or you look at promoting talent within the organization, we have to understand that culture is very important. Today, if you see, there is something that is being referred, it's very, very hot, and you see that candidates are literally jumping organizations. It's almost like shotgun weddings, right? So I do find that for organizations which suit what their own value systems are, or are we it's a kind of a catch-22 that I'm seeing right now, but long-term perspective, definitely I think we need to hire, and for that the organization needs to be conscious of what are its future focus areas, right? For example, we talked about agile. A lot of organizations are focusing today on concepts like entrepreneurship, right? And self-learners, right? So our candidates or people who are applying for jobs are those people who have displayed that in experienced professionals, or if we are talking about freshers, in some way or the other, have they been able to do that? And there are different ways that organizations are doing this, right? Today, you will see that a lot more organizations, we used to recruit, but today we are doing more and more of gamified hiring, contest-based hiring, right? Where you see that candidates, you can actually gauge the application skills of the candidates, and then you hire, right? So you know that you're bringing in the right blood into the organization. And it does not stop there, right? Very often we feel that being talent magnet is all about the external organization, but you need to continue to attract your internal pool as well, right? You can't forget that segment. So how do you keep that consistent focus that you have on external branding, initiatives or external focused talent focus into the organization as well. So when we are doing, let's say, hackathons for internal employees, that is similar to gamified contest for external employees, right? So you have to have these forums, both for external new job seekers and for the internal organization. And that's how you kind of ensure that your organization also stays quite young and peppy, because today you see that a large segment, right, given our kind of workforce, we have close to 88% of our workforce as, the millennials. So we can't afford to sit on legacy systems, right? And I remember a statement that our CEO at that time, and now the chairman of the Tata Group, and Chandra said, he said, we have only legacy skills and not legacy people. So you also need to have that focus in mind, that as the environment changes, how do you take the people that are there along with you? How do you give them that avenues? Right. So that's very, very important. Two things that I wanted to also talk about as good talent, focused initiatives that we have done. One is for freshers, for example, we developed something called a campus commune, which is like a Facebook portal, right? So candidates across the campuses could log in into this, and you have communities there where you can interact with experts. So if you're an AI enthusiast, for example, you have communities and SMEs from TCS who are AI focused, and you can have interactions with them. So that also gives them a feel of the organization early enough, right? So you need to have these avenues. Similarly, for for our internal employees, we did something called a series of recognition programs called contextual masters. Right. So given the history of TCS, Ranjit was talking about organizations not completing 30, 40 years, right? TCS has already celebrated its 50th year of existence. And some of our customer relationships are as long as that, right? So you will have people in TCS who know the customer systems much better than probably the customers themselves. Right. So how do you give those people a sense of achievement, right? And we started on branding these success stories, under the banner of contextual masters, right? How have your contextual knowledge help a customer make a gain, right? How has it helped the customer leverage his own, her own system for better, efficiencies? Similarly, we started doing a series called Digital Champions, wherein people who were extremely focused on digital skills, how has that, enabled the customer to make efficiencies, right? So these are the kind of stories that you need to articulate to the internal forum as well as external. In both, I'm saying, whether you're hiring or whether you're promoting internal talent, it's all about creating awareness. It is about articulating what you're doing and keeping on amplifying that, right? So aware, articulate, and amplify all your practices so that your organization culture becomes a talent magnet.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. It was actually a war, actually. A work in progress, re-engineering, agility, adaptability, all those things. So fantastic. Thank you very much. And I think this is the key thing for attracting talent magnets. And that's where your culture becomes a talent magnet. When you start improvising quite often, like what Ranjit was saying, it's a never-ending journey in terms of working in progress. Thank you very much, Rajashree, for that. Now I am going to our Govind, and this question is reserved for Govind because he comes with he has seen more talent wars and talent leaders. So Govind, this is a very specific thing for you. Do you think the C-suite should spend as much of quality time on culture like what it is spending on strategy? Number one. And how do you think HR can prioritize this as an important agenda in the whole scheme of things?
Thanks, Arvind. And before I answer specifically your question, let me pick from what Ranjit also said, that a culture has a lot of stories. And I would like to share story to make sure that people understand what we are talking about. Because sometimes, and I see a question that one of our participants is asking, how do you measure assess success culture and change it and then evaluate that where are you in culture? I would say it's a long answer to give, but I think stories are one ways by which you can try to assess what your culture is all about. So let me share a story with you. One of my senior HR BP one day came to me in my 101, and she's actually started mentioning that one of her pool's lady team member actually complained to her that she's not happy with the manager. And why she's not happy with the manager? Because she feels that her manager does not appreciate her work, what she's doing, and the manager appreciates others, but she doesn't feel appreciated. And because of which it is impacting her performance, and she don't feel like engaged with the project. I asked her, like, what did you reply to her? And she said, I asked her if she has shared that with the manager directly or not. The team member said, no, I did not share with the manager because she thinks that if she's gonna tell this to manager, the manager might feel offended about it, and this conversation will go in a wrong way. So I asked my HRBP, then what happened? And she said, okay, I actually started coaching her that I think this is the right thing to do. Rather than me jumping into this conversation, I think the manager has the first right to know what you're feeling. And if the manager does not take it properly, as per our culture, the feedback, then maybe we need to jump in. So we would request you to go and speak with the manager first, as opposed to anybody else jumping in. She was hesitant to go and speak with the manager because I think many of us will be, right? But then she was coached by the HRBP how to do it. Things like, hey, don't go with some kind of complaint, don't finger point. Just go with sharing what you have felt, put your story there, and let the manager decide what you have said and how to deal with the situation. Then I asked her, do you have the answer? She said no. And another interesting thing is that the team member complained, but after that, after even the solution, she did not go and speak with the manager. But the HRBP made her accountable. And that's another thing of the culture, that you don't have to create a complaint-making culture, right? You have to make a culture of accountability. If you have something for somebody, you should be accountable to solve it yourself. No HR people is going to come and solve for you. So when that person realized that the HRBP is serious and they're gonna keep coaching her until that she goes and speak to the manager, she actually did it. And the outcome was fantastic. After the conversation, she came back and said that the manager said that he was not aware that some of his actions are not being seen the way he wanted it to see. He was was appreciating her, but in her own style, but that was not evident to that girl. And I think that's where the manager said, hey, I like to change my style because I don't think that you are not doing a great job. You're doing a great job. I was appreciating in my style, but I think the way you are looking for appreciation is different, and let me just change my style. This is a happy story of a culture. Let me tell you a not happy story of a culture. One of our manager joined in the organization at a key position. And of course, he has gone through all the cultural round and everything. In the beginning, we started hearing, and that was in my team itself, we started hearing some of the concern that, you know, he does this, he does that, he speaks at the back of the people, stuff like that. And we were coaching, and I was coaching that person personally to be aligned with the culture, because when people come from different culture, they come with a cultural baggage. So you have to give them some time to actually settle in the new culture. And that was going on. And one day I was in a campus selection process, and I was on the way. I still remember that day very clearly. I got a call from one of my team members saying that, I think you need to speak with this person because this has happened. And I did not like it at all. And my next question was, did you speak to him? Did you tell him that this happened and you did not like? She said, no, I did not, because I don't think it is worth going and talking to the person. I actually coached the person to go and have a conversation, take him to the conference room, tell the story, tell that how you felt, and tell me what was his response. She did exactly what I said. Because she was from talent, I didn't have to coach her. She knew what to do. She actually gave her the story and everything, that why she felt. And then she gave me a call that, you know, Govind, I did it. But in response, I heard a lot of finger pointing. That why, how can I say this and stuff like that. And that's what I realized, that this person is not cultural fit to the organization. He's gonna do a lot of damage to my whole team. And it is better that we should respectfully ask this person to leave the organization. We made a mistake, let's learn from it and move forward. We asked the person to leave. And after that, we got a new leader, and the whole function is flourishing like anything. So Arvind, the reason I gave you these two stories, because not all the stories are happy. Some have sad ending, but I think you need to stand for the culture you want to build. You asked me a question, whether the C-suite should be focused on that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
What I'm not saying, and what I said in the beginning, is that And you also said in the presentation that culture eats strategy for the breakfast. And this is a great quote from a legendary management consultant and writer, Peter Drucker. And it is true. And what I'm not saying again is that culture is bigger than strategy and purpose and vision. This is what I'm not saying. What I'm saying is strategy is also important. Vision is also important. Culture is equally important. The problem is that as a business leader, sometimes we don't give it due importance it needed. And it happens. You are into a business. And when you're a business, of course, all the businesses are there to make money along with the purpose they have why they are there, right? And sometimes in those moments, you don't give due importance to the culture. And that's what I think Peter Drucker wanted to say, is that please give due importance to your culture as well as you give to the strategy. So yes, the C-suite should be giving importance. Without their support and their determination to build the culture, building a culture in the organization is not possible. One. Second, how HR should prioritize it? I think HR should be the biggest advocate to drive this. HR is not responsible. A lot of time people think that HR is the one who builds culture. No, this is a myth. HR does not create the culture. This is the people of the organization. These are the leaders of the organization who builds the culture. HR is a facilitator to make sure that we are doing it. So if the leadership is aligned and the talent is there to facilitate, how to facilitate, I think Ranjit and Rajni has said enough about it, and I don't want to double down on it. There are a lot of things which you have to do. And this is another mistake which a lot of companies make, or a lot of leadership make. They come up and they announce their culture, they announce their values, they announce their core beliefs. But when you ask it, how are you operationalizing it at the ground level? No, we are not operationalizing it at the ground level. The max is maybe there is a cultural fit round happening, or maybe on the onboarding presentation, we are telling them these are A, B, C, D values we have and enough. But I think what we need to do, and HR and the leaders need to do, and the talent function need to do, is operationalize it at the ground. And you said how to prioritize it. You have to prioritize it. There's no way. Look at the talent war going outside, especially with the IT company. I'm sure Rajri might be agreeing with me on this. It is very, very hard to hire talent right now. The demand is so much. We are not able to, I feel, the backouts are so much in IT right now that it is. So culture can be your key differentiator. So I think HR need to prioritize it if they want to do something good to the business. Arvind, I think that's what I would say.
Awesome, simply awesome. So your thing has distilled into 3 keywords: hack. HR is not the only person who drives it. HR is facilitating culture. It's the leaders who drive it, who institutionalize it. Number 1. A is accountability. Everyone owns accountability for the so-called baby called culture. It is everyone who has to nurture it and develop it and sustain it. C, hire for culture fit. I think it has come from 2-3 leaders now. So I think culture fit is very important, and it has come from the right mouth. So I would definitely go for it. Now, because time is running out and looks like that this whole thing is really getting heated up. I don't know what to say. Now, if I go overboard, probably Govind will throw me out of this HR Success Talk forum. So I'll do one thing. I would request all my leaders, all 3 panelists, to keep their answer very short, because we have a lot of questions now and then opening up for forum. Ranjit, again to you. What, according to you, are the strategic tasks which HR should be doing to re-engineer or engineer culture? I know you have a lot of variety to speak, but I want maybe 1 or 2 sentences only to safeguard myself. Yes, Ranjit. Ranjit, you're on mute. Ranjit, you're on mute. Yeah.
Sorry about that. So Arvind, you have been looking for acronyms always from, and then I will say that keep culture from day one. That is one of the important thing, and enable employee voice, and make your leaders culture ambassadors. I hope it is short.
Awesome. So culture ambassadors, or the so-called cultural evangelists, are the main people. As you said, it is never-ending game. It's working progress, WIP. So, and the re-engineering should happen through the cultural evangelist. Thank you very much. So these are the things which HR should facilitate. Find out the right anchors, let them do their job. Thank you very much, Ranjit, for that. Now, Rajni, again, what all process in tune? Again, it's in tune with what Ranjit said. Now, again, engineering part has been given to you, Rajni. What all processes in that organization do you think which can influence so-called culture?
The question is, what process will not, Aravind?
Okay,
Right?
what
So,
process? Yeah, whatever way.
right, so it has to be all pervasive, is what I would say. You can't leave any single one process alone, because then that can become the weak link that kind of breaks, away the whole fabric of what you're trying to build, right? So in each and everything, so it's like inspirational leadership, right? You can't say that you're inspiring leader from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then I will rest. Right, you have to have those things going throughout. So right from your hiring to your training, to your performance management, to employee care, well-being, even the time that an employee separates or retires, right? Each of your processes has to have a distinct way, or in the way the organization deals with it. You can't have even a single process untouched by this. I have heard a lot of my people who leave TCS, whether they retire or resign, say that, I'm leaving TCS, but TCS will never leave me, right? That the TCS is always going to be there with me. So that means that somewhere that the culture, the way of life, what it means to be a TCSer is going to remain with them, right? So you can't have a single process that stays out of this loop, right? It has to be there throughout. Otherwise, it does not become a case of walking the talk.
Awesome. So that means culture is ingrained in all kind of processes, and it is not that you have only one process which will have culture, another thing doesn't have. The values and the whole components of culture should be imbibed in all so-called processes of an so-called TA, talent acquisition, talent development, and total rewards. Thank you very much, Rajashree.
Thank you.
Govind, again to you. Don't you think the alignment of culture and values should be part of performance reviews, bonuses, and promotion? This is one of the questions which has come from the a lot of participants also. And would this kind of thing drive performance-driven culture in an organization? So should it be separate, or should it be one kind of thing?
I would say that it should be part of it, but it should not be done a lot, in the sense that when you talk about a performance-driven organization, and I think organizations should be performance-driven. It should not be on the bureaucracy and how many years you have spent on the business. It has to be performance-driven, but it should not be done. It should not be overdone. So meaning, if there are 5 parameters on which you are evaluating the performance of an individual or a team, one parameter should definitely be on values and culture. And I would touch upon what Raj said. It's not only be, I think not only be the performance, but other aspects of the organization, because that's the key, right? How do you operationalize the culture to the organization? And the way you operationalize it, when you have that in everywhere. I think Ranjit also mentioned that arena, right? When you are celebrating people, are you celebrating people's performance only, or are you celebrating people who are living your values? Are you celebrating people who are living a culture? And I think that was Rajshree. We say that we have to create a culture where people are open to fail, people who are showing vulnerability. So are you actually celebrating such people? Are you celebrating failure? Sometimes people think celebrating failure means you have all the license to fail all the time. No, it's not that. You celebrating failure means you fail, you learn from your mistake, and you don't do it again. Doesn't mean that you do the same mistake again and again and again, right? And that's how you cascade your culture. And Ranjit was mentioning about building employee as the ambassador for culture. And in 3 Pillar, we have this group called Values Ambassador, which has people from across the globe who meets once in a year at an international location. But during the whole year, the responsibility is to make sure that cascading the culture. They are the role models for people to be seen as the culture. I happens to be one from India, but when we tell this, people actually take it like we are perfect. We said, no, we are not perfect. But when we make mistake, we accept our mistake and we learn from it. I think that's what it is all about. So I think it has to be in performance, not to be overdone. It will never create a gap. I don't think it should be part of the bonus, because bonus is your part of compensation. It has to be driven by performance. It has to be a sales target. It has to be a team target. It has less connection with culture. Connecting performance and a culture is somewhat okay if you do it in a certain weightage, but with bonus, I don't see any sense of. connecting it there.
Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot to Ranjit, Govind, and Gayatri for this fantastic thing. So now I'm just going to move again to questions which has come from our public. So thanks to everyone who have really taken time out to share us fantastic questions because of the paucity of time. But then what we have done is we have actually bucketed into different this one. In case you see some of your questions I missed, feel free to ask our leaders. But soon after this, the floor is going to be open. I'm just whatever I've consolidated, I'm going to ask them, and then soon by around 12:15, 12:20, we're just opening it to our own talent team out there, our own people who are part of this forum for asking questions. So first question, again, it is to you, Govind. Govind, don't you think culture often gets diluted in order to achieve business targets? It sometimes happens, right? So how do you think we can retain this? Because in terms of achieving the so-called the targets, some people might lose it out. So how do you retain it? What are the
So Arvind, not sometimes, many a times, the culture is always taken a backseat. I'll give you an example of pandemic. And you might have seen the insecurity among people when the pandemic was happening. People were scared about their job or salary cuts, etc. I always say that it is very easy to live your values when the environment and the things are going smooth. The real test of your organization culture is when the things are not okay. And pandemic was the right time. So I think when the business calls for to take some action, people actually tend to take that action. And there's no wrong in it. Like, for example, if you're asking people to leave because you can't sustain.
It's on mute. Okay, Govind, it was on mute. Govind, it's on mute.
No, we lost your voice.
We lost, yeah. Yeah, we can.
Hope you can hear me now, right?
Yeah, we can.
Sorry, I think my AirPods got that. So what I was saying is that the most of the time people act when people say, we have to fire some people and because we cannot sustain them business wise. And then people ask me that, is it culturally aligned? I would say you have to take some decision for your business also, right? Just because you're culturally led does not mean that you have to keep people. Maybe you have taken a decision to ask some people to leave to sustain other people in the organization, right? But how do you do that exit matters. That's the real reflection of your culture. If you are asking those people to leave disrespectfully without giving them their share, that's what it is, right? So business and culture will always come face to face. Sometime when the business is going down, you have to be concerned about your culture. But if the leadership of the organization and talent is being conscious about that the decision they are taking, how it will impact the culture, I think that's fine. Even if you're taking a decision to cut your salaries, to ask some people to leave, does not matter. What matters is how you're implementing those things. Whether you're implementing it as per your values and culture, that's what matters the most.
Super. Thanks a lot, Govind. Now, and keeping the time in place, Ranjit, again, I know I'm being a strict teacher here, but then one question to you is, how do you practically create a magnetic culture or an effect to hire the great talent? Probably this is something which I've been talking, but then according to you, maybe the one liner which you can say that, yes, this would create.
Yeah. Okay. So there is no simple answer to that, Arvind. Whatever I do, I will describe it a little bit that you expect. But so one thing which I think we as HR people should do is to be current. That is, policies and processes should be in line with the market. So if you have a company which is 20-year-old, you cannot have the policy which is 20-year-old back you have created. It should be updated and continuously looking at. We should keep our radars always on and keep looking for the changes happening in the market and look for how to improve it, make it simpler. You cannot hire a Gen Z person with the policies created by Gen Y. So that is one point. And then be available and approachable is what I would say. That if you have to attract people, you should be approachable. You should be available in all the platforms. You should be available in the latest of the technologies, and you should have the approachability. The candidate should get feedback. You should be visible as an employer. And then another thing is that it's not only that people you attract, you cannot give some fake promises and then keep attracting people. You need to have those opportunities inside your organization, and you should publicize that. It should be in line with the expectation of the market and expectation of the new employees who are coming to your organization. And another important part, which I think is important, is that helping employees to be connected with the latest across the market. Because new technologies are coming up today, IoT or artificial intelligence, all those things are, maybe you are not working on that, but you need to have this in future, or you have some people who are good in that in analytics. So you can always encourage employees to be part of these forums, part of different places where they can speak and get connected and encourage employer referral, and then be part of the changes. Sometimes you cannot be part of the changes, but you may have to think, how do you do that? Presence in the campuses, and then different lateral hiring forums. All of us as recruiters, as HR people, and the employees, we all need to be part of those changes. Sometimes it could be like you create the change, you be part of the creation of that change, be part of some of those forums which you may want to create. So this is what I would like to talk more about this, because it's my favorite area, but you keep reminding me about the time, Arvind.
That's my job. So, but I would say, Ranjit, you have put everything in 4 areas, 4 A's of EVP from Ranjit. Be a person of artificial intelligence, number A. Second is agility with flexibility, availability, that is the care. And fourth, authenticity, very, very important. 4 A's, which is the value proposition for the magnetic culture. Thank you very much for that, Ranjit. Next, I'm leaving it to our Rajashree. Rajashree, again, it's an question which has come a lot. What step do you think should be developed, which would be used for an organization to sustain the so-called culture in the so-called pandemic? It's how do you develop a culture which has been there, but then again, what is the key to sustain it, especially during this kind of situation which we are?
So firstly, apologies that I'm keeping my video off. I'm facing a bit of instability in my net connection, so please bear with me for that. I think, in short, Aravind, it is engagement with purpose, right? Today people are all fragmented. You could be working in your bedroom, laying down on the bed. You could be on the sofa. You don't really know. When you go to organizations, you see people in action. You see that brick and mortar feel of the organization. You see posters about the organization. The stories are all around you, right? But you miss that when you're working in silos. Right. Earlier, we would say that teams are fragmented, and how do you percolate these messages down to the teams? But today, individuals are fragmented, right? And I was having, discussion with one of our associates who was leaving, he was telling me that, somewhere around this 2 years, I've come to think as to what difference does it make as to which organization I'm working for. Right. At the end of the day, if you look at a technical developer, take a technical developer, right? Somebody who's at the junior level. How really does it make a difference to that person, whether he's working for company A, B, or C? Because the nature of the work is same. The customer areas or domains are more or less the same, right? So that is where we are saying that how do we percolate that culture, keep teams digitally connected, right? And in the current COVID pandemic, show extreme amount of importance to employee care and well-being, right? I think these are the 3 things, right? Keeping your teams digitally connected. We all know that there's a lot of digital fatigue. How do you beat that, right? How do you engage people with purpose? I remember that reading an article where it said that at one point in time, right, if you asked anybody in NASA, what are you doing? They would say that we are planning to send America to the moon. Right? Even if you ask the sweeper, you ask, the cook, anybody there, they'll tell you that, that is the mission. So that's engagement with purpose. How do you percolate that to every employee, right? The purpose of the organization. And lastly, employee care and well-being. I think everybody is in a state of confusion, in a state of anxiety. And I think it's important that we give paramount importance to it.
Superb. So thanks a lot, Rajashree. That brings me to only 3 C's, which you were stating. One is communication, extreme communication using the digital mode, not stop it. Second is care, empathy, so-called compassion and all those things. Last but not the least, commitment to the purpose. And once you have it, your people will get super engaged with that. So with this, I'll stop and thank you very much to all those panel great minds who have really touched upon all great questions. Now the floor is open for questions for all audience. I see a lot of audience are putting a lot of things in the chat. At least I was not able to look at, thanks to Govind and all panelists who are answering to questions. Now it's open to questions. It's feel free to ask any kind of questions, but then you can just say which panel you want to, whether it's to Govind or Ranjit or Rajashree, you want to address your questions. Thank you very much. Now the floor is open to you all. Feel
Hi,
excited
everyone.
and energized. Yes.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this entire discussion, and it was really fruitful. So many aspects about culture, and culture is a softer aspect, actually. So it was really nice hearing all the speakers about what culture is, how we build that culture, how we sustain culture, and how we improvise on that. But if we see the entire organization, and you take any organization, there are flavors of culture in different buckets. So there's an organized culture. There's culture which is cascaded into different departments. So how you pick that, which culture is giving you more results or maybe more engagements, and how you cascade that piece of culture into the entire organization. So that's one thing which I want to.
Kapil, you have someone in mind who can address this? I said Ranjit.
It's open for, yeah.
Then I think Govind and Rajashree and Ranjit can fight in between and then decide. All to you.
I can jump in because
Sure.
as the value ambassador for 3Pillar Global, this is one thing I live every single day. And I agree with Kapil that there is something called an organization culture, and then you have some departmental, and I would say that you have some country specific culture as well. So working in a global company, we have seen different cultures in different organizations. But I think what is important is that you define the culture of your organization very well, so that there is no confusion what is acceptable and what is not acceptable in your organization. There's no problem in having a culture, a different culture in your in a department, but it should not be opposite to your organization culture. It should complement your organization culture itself. How do you do it? And that's exactly what I was saying, that sometimes the organization leaders do a good job of doing it, making it on the paper that what a culture is all about, but they don't do a good job of operationalizing it. How do you do it? Quickly. Here are certain things you can do. Make it part of your onboarding. Make it part of your interview process, the cultural fit. Build a employee values ambassador committee who are responsible to that. Connect it with your R&R, connect it with your performance management. Whenever you are celebrating any event, try to remind people. And the most important, in your communication, internal communication and external communication, always start referring your values so that people never forget about it, right? And because 3Pillar is a growing company and we are acquiring a lot of companies across the globe, this is what we always do, Kapil. When we acquire a company, other than a lot of other things, we always make sure this company is culturally aligned to us. If it is not, I can bet, Kapil, we will not acquire the company.
I understand.
And once we acquire the company, then also we put a lot of efforts to sync those people with us and take the best part of them and the best part of us.
So Arvind, you answered my next question as well. Because when we talk about acquisitions, and in this pandemic, during pandemic, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic also, there are so many organizations which have realized that growth can only happen when you acquire different groups. And when there is an acquisition which is happening at a different pace, you get to meet different cultures. You get to meet different, aspects of thought process, leadership, and all of that stuff. So how you make that, maybe some organization who is acquiring people, they may force their culture towards the different agencies. And there you see a lot of conflicts, attrition, and all of that stuff. And this is what, impacting the attrition in IT organizations, especially. How you plan that game? because when we decide for an acquisition, we do, we put our thoughts into seller-buyer agreement, and then we put about practices, we put about people, and then we talk about business and revenue as well. So which aspect should be, if there is any chronological order, logical order, where you put people and culture, and then you talk about business. So how you rate that, and how you feel that it should be aligned to your approach?
I can quickly answer that.
Sure.
Kapil, I think there should be no order. All of them are equal weightage. So, like for example, you don't want to acquire a company where their profit is in negative, and you
Right.
think that the clients are not giving money, or you think that technology is outdated, or you think their office is in a bad place. But you will not acquire the company just because they're culturally very aligned. So
Right.
it's a balance you have to maintain. What I think I was saying is that it's a key aspect of it. Sometimes you can still acquire a company which is not doing good from a business perspective, and you might have seen many examples, companies getting acquired because the other company, the company which is acquiring, has a confidence that they have a system which can make this work because culturally they are aligned, right? That's one. Second, how do they do it? I think it has to be done in a very gradual way. No company should be in hurry, because the company you're acquiring is always in a way of threat. The people always feel that a job is not secure. So I think you have to do it a very gradual way, and by multiple ways of telling them about their values, the core belief, the culture, telling them stories like what we did here, right? Telling them about your story, listening to their stories, and doing it gradually. Take your time, and then integrate each process of them. The PMS, the R&R, the exit process, the hiring process with your process in a way that it does not sound like that you are trying to overcome, but it sounds like a partnership between both. But that's a long answer, Kapil. I can
Sure. Yeah, thank you
summarize.
so much, Arvind. Thank you. Last one from my side. How do
Okay.
you quantify culture?
Again, it has a long answer. The quick answer is there are multiple factors. The one factor could be our ENPS, which is called Employee Net Promoter Score. That's one factor. The second factor is how many people are referring you from within, right? You will see. So if more people are hired by referral, that means your people are liking the culture. Third, you can also find it out when you're having informal conversations with your people. Fourth, retention. Fifth, Glassdoor. So some of the areas you go, just do your weightage. As for your company, you'll come to know how you're doing in terms of culture.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
So Govind and Kapil, I don't know what to say. Because of paucity of time, I'll be forced to take only last one question, because I've already got threatening thing from my team itself.
I'm really sorry it took a long time.
No, Kapil, thank you very much. No, it's just because of paucity of time. But thank you very much. All three things, three questions are interrelated and very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So I would like the last question, if anyone has, or else we'll call it a day. But then if there is any questions, you can just pause it immediately. Any more questions? No? Any more questions? Any more questions? I was told the audience is going to ask a lot of questions actually. So any more questions? Our panel meeting. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Sir, I'm Anita. Sir, can I ask to Govind, sir, one
Sure,
question?
Thank you, ma'am.
Sir, right now, there are so many organizations during the pandemic, we are speaking that there are a lot of changes in HR practices. Do you think when we are speaking about the culture, in the performance appraisal, are they taking this culture into aspect when they are evaluating an employee? Are they checking that this particular employee is matching with the culture or not? Do these aspects are taken into the performance appraisal, sir?
So, Professor Anita, I cannot speak about a lot of other organizations, but I can tell what I hear from Rajshri and Ranjit, and I could totally see that organizations which are not giving attention to their culture will not be the employer of the choice very soon. So either you will die or you have to make sure that you are living your culture in different ways. And now connecting your question to the performance review, the performance reviews are basically to give a hint of how that person is culturally aligned and giving that person a benefit in their performance review. So this is basically a way by which organization is saying that we value our culture and value so much that even your performance will have one element of it. So this is the way by which you operationalize it. And I can speak about IT companies. They are definitely doing it because we can't afford it, honestly. We can't afford a bad culture. So we have to do it. And I'm sure gradually with the globalization, all the companies will adopt it if they have not adopted it so far.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Govind sir.
I just
Thanks a
want to
lot.
add on, Arvind, to
Yes,
what
Ashley.
Govind said. See, I'm sure every organization has its own way in which performance is managed, different systems and all that, right? So if I take my organization, the way we do performance management is a combination of goals, which are your KRAs, and of course the softer attributes, right? Which is your soft skills. Now, depending on the team goals, the team objectives, any of those fields are left for the manager to decide. But there's one goal that is fixed for everybody in the organization, and that is values and conduct.
Absolutely.
Right. So a manager will not be able to delete that from the goal sheet. So that is a mandatory attribute. The rest of it can depend on what the team wants to, there's a lot of flexibility because each team has a way of working that's different. So managers can choose what is their priority, right? But values and conduct is a goal that is there for each employee, each and every employee in the organization, which is, something that you have to subscribe to. So it's something that's been taken very, very seriously, by all organizations.
Super. Thanks a lot. I think I had one question, that one word from everyone, but looks like Rajshree has spoken, Govind has spoken. Now I will not leave Ranjit alone here. Ranjit, you have anything to say to the great question posed by Anita ma'am? With this, I will not say anything. Yeah, we are coming to an end after this. Yeah.
Arvind, if you could repeat that question, it would be good. I missed some points.
Anita ma'am, do you want to address it to Ranjit once again? What she says is, what Anita ma'am's question specifically is it like culture is something which is indispensable, or which is like the values during this COVID, can it be taken very lightly? That's what I could understand. So Govind was saying, no, it has to be there. Rajshree was also reinforcing that. Now to you.
Okay. So Arvind and Madam Anita, the only thing which I can talk about culture based on my understanding is that if the organization wants to survive in the long run, culture is an absolutely important part. If you are in the business of making money for probably a year or 2 year or maybe 5 year, you might survive without culture. But if you want to survive beyond that, it is an important thing that you need to have a very strong culture in the organization. I hope I answered your question.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot. So once again, thanks to everyone, including the audience, for making this great. So my special thanks to people who have worked behind the scene. A lot of people have worked around this. Drishti, Ranjit, Payal, a lot of them. And special thanks to Govind and Ranjit and Rajshree, the panel, who have really made this session great. And also to the whole of audience, the 45, Param 50, at least I see only a dip of 45, but then still it was insanely great session. So thank you once again. Now I am doing the honors. So thanks once again. Wishing you a great weekend ahead. You will see more HR Success Talk chapters and more sessions, which is going to be coming up very soon. So thanks once again. Have a fantastic weekend. Thank you once again. Take care. Bye. Bye all.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Ranjit. Bye. Bye all. Thank you. Yeah.
Good request. Now it's over to Ranjit, please. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, sorry, Ranjit.
Thank you, Arvind, for this.
No worries.
What an invigorating, energizing session. I should say this is giving a lot of energy for the entire weekend and the following weeks coming up. So thank you, Rajshree, Ranjit, TP, and Govind Singh, along with Arvind for this wonderful discussion and learning. This has been a wonderful learning session personally for me. I have learned a lot of nuggets from each one of you. Thank you, GLA University, Mathura, and Amrita Devi Foundation, Uttarakhand, for supporting us. I mean, it would be bad on my part if I don't mention the people behind the scene who has made this possible and made this wonderful thing happen. So special thanks to Drishti, Nishant, and Kripi, who work in the webinar vertical along with Ms. Payal. Thank you so much for this background work you have done. Again, Shambhavi, I mean, you have seen some, you have shared some wonderful designs on the posters and things like that, so which made a lot of people register for the session. Thank you, Shambhavi, for that. Krishna Negi and people like Vicky who have shared and the social media supported us in ensuring that this reaches maximum people. Thank you so much for the entire team. And if at all I have missed any name, I mean, the entire volunteers team and each one of you, thank you so much. And for making this a grand success. It's not only the participants here, it's a large group who is seeing the entire webinar out in the Facebook and LinkedIn as well. So thank you so much for the viewers there. This will be available as a record in Facebook as well as in LinkedIn. So if you have missed out something, please do watch. So now I have one last point